Welcome to Getting into Maya 2017. The course is designed to educate new students into the world of 3D graphics. We will be using Autodesk's Maya 2017 program, and we aim to help bring you up to speed as quickly as possible. After you have completed this course, you should begin to practice making some simple scenes of your own before moving on to the specialised lessons. At 3D Animation Mentor, we know what you need to do to complete your courses, taking our experience of delivering course material from the classroom and putting it at your fingertips. This course will help you to navigate the software interface, set up new projects, use the viewports and panel windows, getting to the objects and how they are made, and finally help you begin organising scene files and preparing for your first 3D content. Navigating Maya's viewport. Welcome to Maya 2017. We're going to look at the interface and explain some of the parts and names that you will see as you use the software. First, you'll see when you first open up Maya a little highlight box. It shows some of the new features that are highlighted in green. If you wish to use this box again and again, leave these settings on. If you don't want to be bothered by it, then let's just turn this off. Okay, so the first thing we want to walk through is looking at some of what the Maya interface is and how it's broken up. So the first section we'll look at is the section up here called the menu sets. If you just hover your mouse over the menu sets, it will actually give you a little cue prompter. If we select the menu sets, you can see that we have some different model, rigging, animation, effects, rendering and customized layouts. So by changing the menu sets, we change the menu layouts on the top layer. As you can see, these change as we change through them. We can see those changing. And there we are. The next part is to look at some of the menus themselves. So the menus have some defaults that will always be there, and then the changes that come from the menu sets. It's important that when you are looking for certain tools that you first check that you're in the right menu set. Sometimes you could be in an animation set looking for a modeling tool and it won't be there. Next we'll look at is the status line. This is the status line across here. So as we can see, the status line shows us some of the icons that are used for general commands such as file and save and open, the sort of default things that we've got, as well as some of the snapping tools that we have in here. And you'll probably be able to see that some of these tools are actually hidden away. You can just click those to open them up, and they're quite important as well. So you can see there we've got different object sets in there. Maya tends to default to a very slimmed down version so that you can then choose what you want to open up and how you want to have the use of it. Here you'll see the user account, so you can see that I've got my user account logged in. And then we can see that there's the Maya shelf. So the shelves are changeable. You can make your own shelves, and these hold all the icons for the commands that you may wish to be using. New to Maya 2017 is the Workspace Selector. Here you can see we're in the Maya Classic view, but if we change these, we can change to some modeling views or sculpting views, and it will actually change the shelves, and these layouts can be modified and set up, and you can create your own sort of things. There's one for motion graphics using the mesh setup, and you can see you've got graph editors and all sorts in there. We'll just keep this on our default Maya Classic. These are the sidebars. These are the icons for the sidebars. So the sidebars are down here. I'll get to those in a second. But they allow you to see the cycle through the sidebars. This cycles through the channel box and the layer, This one will show or hide the tool settings, so you can see tool settings in there. Here we can see the attribute editor. The new one here is character controls, and then we have the modeling toolkit. I'm just going to go back to the channel box, and down the side you'll see the channel box. This is where the channels are. So if I was to bring in an object, here I've made a polygon sphere, and you can see some of the connections that are inside this sphere. So we have some translate connections, we have some rotate connections, and some scale connections, a visibility connection as well. And then we have the inputs, and this goes into how it's made. So we have a radius input, and we have subdivision inputs as well, and we can change those, and this is the inputs at birth. And we also can see some of how the pole would be created, so we can say it's pinched at pole or it's sawtooth at pole, and that will be how the UVs are made, and we'll get into those a little bit later on. Underneath the channel box is the layer editor, and this has got the display layer and the animation layer. The display layer is useful if we have multiple objects. I'll just create a duplicate of this object, and we may wish to turn the visibility of one of these objects on and off. We could do this quite easily by creating a layer. So this one we could rename and call it ball 2, and give it a different colour, so that if we were in a wireframe mode, you can see that we have a different colour from the default blue wireframe. And I could also, if I wish, turn the visibility of this one off, or I could make it into a template so that I can't select it, or maybe I'll use it as a reference. So it's a reference, I still can't select it, I can select it here. View panels. So I'm just going to bring up 4 views so you can see this. These are the 4 view panels that we have in here. We have a top view, a front view, a side view, and a perspective view. And these views are the 3D views that we will use most often when creating content within the Maya application. We will look at the view panel in a little bit more depth on a video of its own. Up on the left hand side you have the toolbox, and the toolbox contains some of the most common tools, so things like the select tool, or the lasso select tool, or the paint select tool, and this is useful for if we're selecting objects with a marquee mode of square, or if we wanted to say select a round an object because the square was going to select both of the objects, then we would use the lasso. The paint selection tool is useful for the component modes, and we'll get to component modes a little bit later into a different video. Underneath the toolbox we have the quick layout, or the outliner buttons, and these are quick snaps into different layouts within our view panels, and there are many different view panels that we can use and choose, but these are the main common ones. This one's got the outliner at the side of that one. At the bottom we have the time slider. This is where we would do some of our main animation keyframing in here, and then underneath that we have the range slider. This is the range of animation, so this changes how many keyframes we're showing, and we can do double starts and ends, so we can clip these out. So you can see we have 1 to 120 on the inside line, and then 1 to 200 on the outside line. And if I drag this, I can change the outside line or make this smaller to really focus down or look at the bigger pictures of the animation scene that we have. We can look underneath at the end. We have some playback controls, so the playback controls are at the end of the range slider. Then we have the animation character sets. This we'll get into when we talk about animating objects, and it's useful for when you're wanting to define between different animatable objects. Underneath this we have the command line. Here's the command line, which is a mel based command line, and then at the bottom we have the help line, which will basically tell you pretty much all the sort of things that are going on underneath your cursor. So that's how the interface works. To use the viewports, we use the Alt key and the left mouse button to tumble around an object, and this is focused on the origin, the world origin at the moment, but if I was to select the second sphere that we have, the second polygon sphere, and press F, we could focus up on this one, and then it would change where our tumble points are. If we select both, we could tumble around the center of both, or we can just revert back to center. Using the Alt button and the middle wheel or mouse, depending on how your mouse is set up, you can track across the screen. So this tracks, and this works in multiple views as well, so tracking inside the orthographic views X, Y and Z, and inside perspective is no different, and that's for the same for most of the editors that you have inside Maya. And then Alt and the right mouse button is the dolly in and out. So we're dollying the camera in and out. It's not a zoom. It does sometimes get referred to as the zoom, but it's a dolly. The camera physically moves on a dolly, and if we were to show the camera, let's see if we can find the camera. There's the camera. I've just unhidden the camera so it's visible. If I dolly in and out, you can see that the camera is getting closer to those objects. To reveal the zoom function, if we go into the viewport and down into the camera tools, you can see that we have the tumble tool, track tool, dolly tool, and here is the zoom tool. If I was to select the zoom tool, I then get a little sort of magnifying glass, and this allows me to zoom in and out. The camera doesn't actually change in a sense that it changes the focal length, which is what you can see being changed inside the channel box.